I'm Roger. I'm an alcoholic. Admission. My backup plan. No, it's funny. I've been doing some weekend retreats with Dennis and some workshops, and we've crafted this idea called Turning Point, and it's based around Emmett Fox's 4 stages of spiritual conversion or transformation: admission, submission, restitution, and construction of a new life. And they fit beautifully with our steps. So when you asked me about this topic, it was before I knew I was going to be selling eggs in the morning. So anyway, you know this from your own experience, and we always talk about that point at which we gave up as a bottom, right? Usually for us, one of many, but that last one is a little different because something breaks inside. Something breaks inside, and I just can't take another step forward. I just can't do it anymore. And we say, I surrendered. And I did that too, and I'm not contradicting anyone's experience. That's not the point of this. But it's interesting that there's no surrender in the steps. And it because of my attitude, newly sober, and today, I'm a little belligerent, and I have a high smart-ass quotient, and I like to have a good foundation for what I'm saying I believe in. What I'm saying is the truth for me. And I remember, I was laughing about your pleasant first year. It didn't get pleasant for me till about 6 years, but that was due solely to my attitude. And I remember thinking, I was sitting in meetings and I was watching people get better. They looked like they were getting better. You know, they when you stop drinking after a few weeks, you look better just because you're not drinking every day. Skin clears up a little bit. You start being able to speak, in intelligible sentences, not just the grunts and the groans, And you can hold a full cup of coffee. Obviously, recovery is in play. That slowed down a bit. And I was watching. I always watched from the back. Back there where Mary and Ann are. I always watched from the back because I was not into joining things. I was not a participator. And so I sat in the back because the back was always the closest to the door. And just in case you got a little too something, I could just flip you off and leave. Or when we got to the end and you're doing your, if you want what we have crap and praying and all that, I could duck out then. And but I was watching people come in, and I'd been there a while. And I'd been there 6 months, I'd been there 12 months, I'd been there 18 months, 24 months. And after that, you get a medal only once a year. I mean, the party is really over then. In the beginning, they're throwing medallions at you every other day. Well, thank you very much. And I was sitting in the back, and my observation, I was starting to get pissed. I was a little jealous. I didn't know it was jealousy at the time, but I was getting angry because I thought, here this guy is, this woman is. It was mostly guys. I went to mostly men's meetings, and I went to mixed meetings by accident. And here these guys are getting well. I mean, looking like they're getting well. I don't know if they're really getting well. But shit, they can talk. They've got jobs again. They've got money in their pockets. They're laughing. Mm-hmm. They got vehicles. Oh, I got back in the house. Oh, good for you. But they're reporting things that we tend to say are markings of progress, at least on the exterior. My kids like me again. Oh, good for you. And I'm just watching it, and I'm wondering, why not me? Why not me? And I started feeling like I got gypped. Because I had a profound surrender. And then I did a self-inflicted detox with a couple of guys that drank around the clock and babysat me for a little over a week. And I kicked everything I've been doing for about 15 years. And that was a pretty impressive experience. And I came out of that, and I started to trudge the happy road of destiny. And it felt like I was running through chest-deep water. I mean, there's a couple of real big problems in the background of this, my struggle. One is I was a devout atheist. And I mean, it doesn't take a sixth grader can read the steps, and it's pretty clear this is about power and not yours, right? And it's about honesty, which is not real high on my priorities. And I started feeling like, I should have got more for my surrender. It was totally lost on me that I wasn't doing anything. I had a one-step program. I'm powerless over alcohol. My life's unmanageable. Roger, powerless over alcohol, powerless to manage my life to any level of satisfaction for me. Okay? And there was zero doubt in that knowing. And I think that's the thing that really pulled me through all this stuff, because the other gift I got out of that detox. And when I came out of that, I didn't think, okay, now, sober for the rest of your life. Have fun. Right? My dad sobered up 10 years before I did, and he was having fun. But I didn't want anything to do with anything he was involved with, And I certainly didn't want to be Don's son running around AA. So, pretty tough. And I didn't have a sponsor. I could see absolutely no one who was smart enough to work with me. or had the depth of experience that would be necessary for such a complex case. You understand what I'm saying? So who better to handle that case than me? The guy who created the case. Which is the problem with this thing. It doesn't let us know what it is. It lets us think that the problem is the drinking. Then you stop the drinking, and I'm really good for a month, 2, 3. I'm really good for 5, 6 months. And then I get out of my sober house. Or I get off, work release or whatever. And slowly my life starts coming back to me, and I'm not doing so good around 6, 7, 8, 9 months. I start getting a little dissatisfied. And it's because I have a thing called alcoholism, which resides in my thinking. Doesn't live in my body in a classical sense. So I don't know any of this stuff, and I figure, who better to sponsor me than me? And I looked at the steps, and I honestly, I would have done them if I could do them honestly. Because I realized you guys had the key to this thing. There's no more successful treatment for addiction than those 12 steps. I knew that. And I had living proof of it with my dad. I could look at Pete, I could look at Mike, I could look at people in the meeting and say, well, he's a poser, he's faking it. But I knew my dad wasn't. I knew that son of a bitch really got this thing. And that, in that sense, he was my Ebby. He's the guy, by his example, by his demonstration, that refuted my baloney. So, I'm thinking, I surrendered. I should be further along. But I'm not participating in any process to move me further along. So, the reason I like this Fox thing is because it's just another angle, really. But it ties in with one of the things I've said about this all along. It doesn't say we surrendered. It doesn't say we agree. It doesn't say we concur. It doesn't say we capitulate. It says we admit it. That's all. What is that? It means to allow in. Just to allow in. So I hit this place where I can't take another step forward. We call it a bottom. And I think there was an honest surrender there. But the reason I was so miserable in AA was I only surrendered 2 things. Alcohol and drugs. I didn't surrender anything else. What things? Ideas. Philosophies. About how theology, about how the world works. There is no God, okay? That's not even a question. We're not even talking about that. And then I got a whole set of ideas about money that no one else seems to have. I got a whole set of ideas about women and relationships that Doesn't seem to be working real well, which is why I have to practice serial monogamy. Let it sink in. Probably too big of words right together, I know. Some of the new people are going, wait a minute, cereal? General Mills? No. Cereal? Oh, shit, what did he just say? I don't know. Let's go home. I had a lot of ideas about people, the people around me, and what they were about, and the culture, and the city I grew up in, and the school I grew up in, and the family I grew up in. I had a lot of ideas, and I didn't talk about these ideas too much out loud. They would have thrown a net over me. I'm not stupid. I'm crazy. There's a difference. But I never felt safe. I never felt safe on the planet. From the time I was a little boy, I never felt safe, and I never felt good enough. That's a tough way to go through the world. And when you take on that idea and then you foster it and you nurture it and you give it safe harbor, it goes into your subconscious as part of your operating software. The only thing that makes that valid is I practiced it. And when you practice it and it's here, it's operating at that subconscious level, on a conscious level, as your five senses are bringing data in for your brain to analyze, that little software is running all the time. Are we safe? Are we safe? Are we safe? Are we enough? Are we enough? And the answer is always, no! No, not safe. Run away or punch him. Right? Either destroy, acquire, or evade. So, I started studying, and I started looking at this word, allow in. And it's a whole different animal. All we've done is we've allowed in an idea. The idea is powerlessness. Powerless with the substance. Right? Well, once you get the substance out of the game, and you're 6 months a year, 2 years down the road, and you're rolling with this inventory that you also studiously do, 10 and 11, you realize there's another problem. And it's fear, and it's always there. Greater, lesser degrees. But that bitch is always there. And it needs to be addressed. It does not to be fought with. It needs to be observed. Because that's the echo of that old belief. I'm not enough, I'm not safe. I'm not enough, I'm not safe. And here's all the reasons why. So when you're not enough and you're not safe, what do you think I'm doing when I'm going through my day? I'm looking at all you, figuring out who's trying to get me. You come up and do something nice for me, and I'm looking at you going, what's his angle? What's his angle? Because I don't want you to get over on me. That's the ultimate humiliation, to be tricked, right? To be had. I'd much rather have you. Or call it a draw. So you're constantly in this win-lose posture. And that's a posture that comes out of this egoic structure, this false self, is what Tolle calls it, false self or pain body. So I've got not one, not two, I got hundreds, probably thousands of these experiences that I have felt that hurt me, that I shoved where I couldn't feel them anymore. And where I shoved them was right into that software package that said, you're not good enough and you're not safe. And so you're going along and you're going, wow, this is interesting. I'm doing so well in recovery, meaning I haven't drank. I'm doing not so well in here. And if this doesn't get addressed, I ain't staying. And if I'm staying, I'm not enjoying sobriety. Because all I've got is sobriety. And I'm not telling anyone, because that would create vulnerability and exposure, right? I can't come up to you right after you tell me how good I'm doing and say, I'm scared shitless. I don't know how to pray. Can you give me any insight into that? I mean, my conversation would have been, just tell me something. Would you just be honest with me? You really do this shit? I mean, more than once? That would have been the honest exchange. That wasn't what I did. I grabbed the 12 and 12, read something Bill wrote, so I had something to say, because you want to contribute. right? Because the other side of this inferiority complex is, I want to be the smartest guy in the goddamn room. Mm-hmm. The only way I can do that is to memorize something Bill said, because I don't know squat, right? So when it comes to my turn, well, as Bill said in the 12 and 12, dribble, 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 and everyone goes, oh, wow. You know, or you can use the big book. No one reads that either. Man, that's good stuff. Where'd you get that? That blue book. What one's that? The 10 you have from your treatments. That book. The one you're using to level the fridge. I'm telling it myself. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm telling you. I was just ridiculous. But you feel the difference? I allow in versus I got to surrender. And the truth is, no one surrenders. We surrender in pieces. I should rephrase this. All the people I've ever worked with surrender in pieces. I think when you surrender in totality, you have a Jesus. You have a Buddha. You have instant and total, complete enlightenment. Muhammad, Moses, right? I think there's examples of it. But I sure as hell ain't one. And I certainly haven't seen one sitting at AA. Just saying. I judge no man. Just loving assessments. But I don't see anyone I don't see anyone I want to lead me to the promised land, so to speak. So just suppose. I mean, let's say I did surrender. That's fine. But I also got to get honest. I did not surrender totally. I did not surrender completely. Because, you know, that guy you've been watching at the meeting, that woman you've been watching at the meeting, sober dance, sober bowling, sober softball, sober coffee. That's a really great place to meet, I hear. Coffee, put your big book on the table. Oh, please. Oh, yes. I'm just saying, it's hearsay for me, but this is what's reported to me. But none of us have surrendered everything. And the fear and the shame say, don't even cop to that. That is the problem. It's all the things that I don't agree, that I don't want to let go of. This is a 6 and 7 question. That I don't want to consign. Because I'm afraid of who I'll be without it. Because I'm so attached to it. I'm so identified by this idea I have about who I am. A role. Oftentimes a role. That I don't want to let go of it. And I see no need to. I think it's perfectly fine I work 90 hours a week. But your marriage is falling apart. And your kids don't know your name anymore. But look at my numbers. I am my damn numbers. And I will not put my work life through the steps. I will not put my marriage through the steps. I will not put my friendship through the steps. I will not put my work relations through the steps. Because you know what? You do that in the business world, you get your ass handed to you. Go around spiritually. I've worked with a number of salesmen over the years, selling, one-off customer stuff and also selling bigger wholesale stuff. And to a person in the beginning, when we're doing this, they're all gung-ho, and then we get to the work part. So now how are you going to work? How are you going to sell without lying? I can't do this at work. I was out at the Salvation Army working with some guys, and we were talking about principles and stealing all that. And this guy, just incredulous looking, said, "You mean I got to quit stealing cars?" And it was just like, "That's my livelihood, man. What are you saying? No, you can keep stealing cars, but you're going to have to keep going to jail because you're not a very good car thief." But no, I'm not telling you to stop, but So the question is, and it comes up in 6 and 7, it comes up, what do you still cling to? If I don't have a level of self-discovery and honesty with myself, I won't know what those answers are. That's okay. Blow by it. Because if you ever start doing 10 and 11, it'll catch it. It's a bullshit filter. It's actually, 10 is actually a drunk trap for people who've been slovenly with the first 9. Because it'll come up there. It's a poop filter. And then 11 is the solution. I got to stay connected to the power. So admit, can I allow in this idea? Okay, I allow it in. I'm powerless. Okay, fine. Right, powerless. That's not helpless. It's powerless. And I think it's a trick. Well, you know what it's like when you do this when you start, right? Powerless, life's unmanageable, hell yes. And then you realize there's parts that you want to manage. And you go, well, that's not so unmanageable. Shit, no. Right? Really. But if you put it in these terms, of the manageability question, if you put it in these terms, at the end of the day, when you get done running your life and running your game and deploying your philosophy and your theology, and you interact with all the people you interact with, at the end of the day, not just one day, but the end of a series of days, maybe at the end of this decade, maybe at the end of when you do take a reflection, are you satisfied with the results? Do you look at your life and just go, damn, that's sweet. I'll have another 10 years of this shit for sure. With more sugar on top. Not most of us don't do that. Certainly not in the early years. Most of us don't do that. And that's what it's talking about. Can I allow in this? All I did was allow in the idea. Nothing changed out here. I allowed in the idea that maybe what the thing has been all along is what they've been saying. You don't have sufficient power. God, I don't want that to be true. Why? Because that confirms this other message I've been walking around with since I was a little boy. You know why you're powerless? Because you're not enough. You're just not quite good enough. You're just not quite a good enough guy. You're just not quite a good enough gal. You're just not quite good enough. And you should be afraid. Because as people find out, you're going to be alone. And you are not going to have any success at anything. So I allow this idea. And I think ideas, I know, for me, ideas have power. And I let this idea in, and it starts rolling around. And what happens as it rolls around is I start realizing there's a few other things I got a little power question with. Not just booze and drugs. I'm powerless over how I feel. I'm powerless over my emotion. I can't control my emotion. I can't control my mood. In fact, I can't even predict my mood. I can't even predict. It's not like, go to bed, do your prayers, clean slate, wake up. Oh, it's like, I wake up and it's going, oh shit, here we go again. You know, they're all still here. What am I going to do? Right? God. Do you know what I'm saying? That's a hard way to live. It's a hard way to live. So I've allowed in this idea. What I didn't also understand is, I also allowed in other possibilities. Because this is the beginning of me allowing in this idea. What's really failed is your self-reliance. What's really failed is that pristine intellect attached to that ridiculous ego on steroids that's trying to kill you. That's what's failed. That's what's failed here. And you start coming up to speed on that, and it's like, oh, that's impressive. So I didn't know when I admitted I was powerless. I also admitted there was something more powerful than me. Not the substance. That's obvious. When they would say, well, aren't there things more powerful than you? Yeah, of course there are. And I'd name things that were all negative and destructive. Yes, if I go stand on the train tracks, that train will be more powerful than me. If I go jump out into the middle of the freeway and a Mack truck comes along, that will be more powerful. My pistol is more powerful than me. Yeah. But what about anything on the plus side of the spectrum? Anything that's not going to destroy you? Any power over there? No. Right then, the cynicism and the closed mind come into play, and I've considered that question already. That's why I'm an atheist. So, we're not going there. But here's the thing: they say in our book that material progress always follows spiritual, never the other way around. And that confused me. Because I thought I had come to the spiritual aspect of this life last. And surrender is a spiritual act. When I allow in this truth, I am powerless, it is the acquiescence to the big truth. There is something more here than just this. And that thing that is something more here than just this, God, organizing force of the universe, whatever you call it, is the thing that gave me the insight. Because my insight was nil to minus. I couldn't. How do you have an insight when you're dying from drinking? And all you can do is drink till you black out and pass out. Where's that insight? Does that come? Oh, I got to the bottom of that Jameson and I had an enlightening moment. I did that a few times, wrote them down, for future reference. Because it was so clear when it came. And then the next day I couldn't read what I wrote. And I knew it was there somehow. So, this truth, capital T, is what was behind the break. I broke. I was drinking to die. I was 30 years old, and I was almost there. And I didn't want to sober up. And I couldn't stop I couldn't stop my arm. Literally. I would watch it, and I would go, oh. Do you ever drink and it just didn't do anything anymore? Just, can't even taste it. And I'd go, and my arm would go out and give another. And I'd be watching my arm like it wasn't attached to me. Oh, fuck, my God, oh. And the glass would come out, it would just get like this big. It was just like I was falling in this glass, and I could not do anything about that process. And something broke. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I knew I couldn't do it. Different than other bottoms. Different than other periods when I got to a place where I just can't do this. There was always an asterisk for a while. I just can't do this for a while. I got to stop throwing up. I got to get some food to stay down. I got to figure out what town I'm in. I got a to-do list. And once I get that done, but right now I got to figure out where home is and how I'm going to get there. It's the truth. It's not an exaggeration. That's why it's funny. So I don't believe in God. I don't believe in a power greater than me. And I certainly don't believe in grace and mercy. How nice for you. Another little comforting crutch that you goofballs use to tell yourself and explain your pain and misery. At least I'm not getting what I deserve. Well, that's fine, but this is bloody bad. That they used to say, God never gives you more than you can handle. And I'm thinking, I wish God didn't trust me so much. God obviously has more faith in me than I do. So, this is a thing that's not of words that I'm trying to describe to you. It broke in me. It broke. And it was a crack in the alcoholism. It broke. And the God I didn't believe in is what broke it. The reason I couldn't swallow was the power I didn't believe in, saying, this is stopping right now. It did not say, I'm going to spank your ass clean and you're never going to have another problem. It said this, and this, and this, and all that other shit. That's over, okay? We're just not having any more of that. And it was to be true. But it broke in me. I couldn't hurt myself anymore. And the alcoholics that are on the lower end of the spectrum with your drinking, you know what it is to drink because you have to. It's not because you even want to or because it's fun. You have to. And if you don't have your medicine on a regular basis, which is usually hourly, you start flying apart. We didn't know that was withdrawals. We didn't know that was kidney and liver damage. We didn't know that. We just knew that you start shaking really violently if you don't keep drinking. So, well, keep drinking, stupid. You're not dumb. Yeah, of course. Right? But it broke. And I didn't know what the rest was going to be. I was really sick for that week. And I came out of that week. And the level of belligerence and intolerance was totally intact. I knew I was powerless. And the gift that I got with that brokenness, that thing that broke, I also knew, and a lot of guys I work with don't know this, I knew that was my only chance. I never ever had this idea, well, maybe I could just do cocaine. Or maybe it's been a while, maybe I could just drink again. Casually. Not every day. Just maybe a drink. I never ever had that thought. I did not know how I was going to not drink the rest of my life. I couldn't go there. That just hurt my head, and I totally had no basis for that. But I knew I could not drink today. And I sobered up playing in bars. I was a musician. I was working in bars 5-7 nights a week. It's up to my earballs and naked women and booze and drugs. And it was totally ineffective. Totally. And it actually, the reverse happened. Here's another gift, another grace. So the first gift was I knew that I didn't have a number two. I didn't have another chance. And I've said this to guys today. If I ever go out, you will not see me back in these damn meetings. You'll see me on the news first, but you won't see me back in meetings. Because I will be a mushroom cloud on the horizon, but I barely got here and stayed here. And I have no doubt in my mind if I go out again, it's goodbye. Anyway, so that was a gift of that brokenness. It was a gift. Didn't feel like a blessing. Felt like a curse. You know, some of you in early sobriety remember when you start hanging out with normal people and there's booze and stuff. I'm not drinking. Oh, really? And you don't say I'm not drinking. You say I can't drink. That's an expression of deprivation. I can't drink, which means I want to, but I can't. Right? I don't want to. I have no desire to. It has no attraction. It's rather entertaining watching other people try to do it. I think I could have a drinker's training class to teach the people how to drink like real people. But I don't think too many people survive the course. You want me to what? Just do it back! No, not chase it with that other thing. Yeah! Get that umbrella out of there. You don't need that Sally. Here's your vitamins. Come on, let's go. Now, hoist them. Wow! I don't think too many people make it through the RB drinking class. Drinking for professionals, we could call it. Olympian drinking. What?
Power drinking.
Power drinking. Oh, I guess I was saying. So, where was I? This idea of admittance. It comes into play in the second step, too. The second step is, can you admit you're not God? When you say it out loud, it sounds so silly. But when you look at your actions, that's exactly how I was acting. It's acting like God when you think you know what everyone should say and do, and when they should say and do it, and precisely how. In case you're still wondering, another quality of this attribute that we're all blessed with, this divinity, is you can read people's minds and you know what they're thinking. And that's why they look at you so stunned, because you've looked at them, you've read their mind, you've created the story, and now you just walk and say, "You son of a bitch!" And they're going, "Excuse me? I'm Charles. You are?" You know, "Yes, son of a bitch!" You know, I went through my whole life doing that. I didn't, it obviously it wasn't apparent to me. But as I allow in this idea, do you think there could be a power that's not you? That's constructive. I had to add constructive because it was all my powers were negative. Can you admit that to yourself? Ooh, I'm going to need some help because it sounds like failure. Surrender sounds like failure. And failure sounds like a confirmation of this other thing I've been living with my whole life, that you're not enough. And it's actually just the opposite. It's breakthrough. It's courageous. Who knows? So, can I allow in this idea? The step is in the past tense. It says, came to believe. The thought came to me when later. That there was a power, it was greater than me, and it could restore me to sanity. Something useful I had to put. Because I didn't know about the sanity thing. And I had a problem with the restoration. Because it's embarrassing, but it's true. I can remember 2 instances in my whole life growing up that were pleasant, that I remember ever feeling safe. All the noise in my head stopped. My chest relaxed. It's the closest thing to peace I ever felt in my life growing up. Two incidences. And so I was a little worried about being restored. I didn't want to be restored to when I was 20. I didn't want to be restored to when I was a teenager. That was horribly painful. I certainly, I just I didn't get it. But what if it was a restoration to what you originally intended to be? What if it was a restoration to the thing you are? Your essence. The face you were born with, the Buddhists talk about. The face you were born with. The face you had before you were born. The essence, the identity you were. The I am, before it came into being. What if that was the restoration point? Well, sounds better than anything I've come up with. That sounds good. Pure. Unprejudiced. Open-minded. Open mind, open heart. Pretty nice. So can I admit these things? And the admittance allows the idea, and the idea works on me. I don't work on the idea. It works on me. It doesn't look like that. It looks like I'm working on the idea, but what I've been doing is I've been working on identifying everything that doesn't work. That's not the idea. That's not the idea. That's not the idea. What concept of God? Well, I have no idea. Fine. Well, let's start here. What's the God not? Well, that's certainly not God. Good. What else? That's not God. Oh. What else? Well, that's not God. Good. And as you run out, exhaust yourself about all the things that are not God, what's left? What's left? Can you go with any of that? Hope? Goodness? Peace? Think there's any mercy in the world? Do you think there's any peace? Any goodness? Could you go for that? Seems like a flimsy read. Seems like a very flimsy read. So, this admittance comes into play all over the place. Every time you run into your closed-mindedness, your fixed ideas, your belligerence, your intolerance, that's what you're running into. I have an idea, one, that I cherish above all else, and I'm not willing to consider modifying or getting rid of, heaven forbid, right? That's exactly what I will not allow in another way to look at this, because this is the way I see it. And you know what? I've always seen it this way. What if you've always been wrong? Oh, shit. Allow that in. We talk about this a lot as we're going along our merry way in our spiritual lives. Everyone has problems with fear. And the way you deal with your fear is you learn to pray, you learn to inventory, and you also learn to observe the fear. It's not real. It hasn't even happened. And I've created a whole daily planner full of what ifs, right? And I'm exhausted. I'm really tired. I'm bright. You're bright. We're bright. Well, you start thinking of plans. It's not A, B, and C. It's like A, B, C, D, E, double Z, triple Z, triple A. I mean, I can plan. I'm a planner. And who better to plan than a devious son of a bitch? I can think of all the angles you're coming at me with. I think I got it all covered. And then something completely different happens that I did not have on the list. And it makes the whole list obsolete. Totally useless. An exercise in fantasy. So, what am I not willing to admit is another way to get at this. With this admission to allow in. It's very gentle. It's not saying you have to believe anything. It's just saying, can you allow this in? Put this in with the other bullshit that you've been living off of that's worked so well. Just bring this idea, and the ideas work on you. They work on you. And it depends on how much assistance you grab. You don't grab a lot of assistance. It's painful. I'm glad you had a pleasant year. I am. I'm not being facetious. I am. But you know what I was doing at 12 months? Planning my suicide. And it wasn't because I wanted to drink. It's because I could not stand the noise in my head I couldn't. I thought if this is sobriety, which it wasn't, but if Roger's world, if this is the happy road of destiny, if this is what it's going to be, I don't want to be here. It's not that I want to drink. I don't want to be here. Because this, I think, is the best I've been able to do to date. And it was. It was maximum effort. It was woefully inadequate. But I had everything I could bring to the table with the level of belligerence and closed-mindedness that I had. I was full on with my 2%. It was 100% of my 2%. And I couldn't figure out why things weren't working. I didn't know I had to participate in the process. I thought it was something that was going to happen to me. By sitting with you, hanging out with you, reading some books, memorizing some shit, nod where you're supposed to nod, drink the Kool-Aid, fine. Okay, it's not Kool-Aid, it's coffee, fine. Donuts, okay, I'll do that. Now am I sober? Why don't I feel better? I need a sponsor. Who wants to sponsor me? I need about $5,000. I'll put your name on my jacket. It'll be NASCAR, AA. I need a sponsor. Golfers do it to get sponsored. Oh, no. Because this plays right into the next thing. Allowing in the idea puts me in a posture when I could submit to a drastic reappraisal, which is 2 through 7. Drastic reappraisal of my ego, my position in the world, my ideas, my thinking, what informs it, what drives it, and a greater understanding of why I have the life I have. I have the life I have because I've created it. Nothing's been done to me. I did it to me. And that's a hard one for someone. I'm not saying that bad shit hasn't been done to us. Yes, we got molested. Yes, we got robbed. Yes, some of us got raped. Yes, all that's true. And that's bad shit. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what I did with that stuff. And what I did with that stuff did not promote healing. That's my responsibility in that. That's why I say I have this life because it's the one I created. And it's not created out of a phrase that I repeat 16 times a day. It's repeated out of actions I repetitively take on a consistent basis. Those actions have an effect. They have an effect. They have an effect on the people I interact with, and they have an effect on me. And those actions become my life, right? So if I don't understand what informs those actions, I'm at the beck and call of my instincts. Scare me, you get this reaction. Flatter me, you get this reaction. They're all about the same reaction. They are. You attack me, you get that reaction. You flatter me, you get the same reaction. I'll deflect it, I'll dance, I'll sidestep it, but not having any of it, good or bad. Because I don't trust it. You don't have trust issues. Don't you?
Oh, sure.
Of course. You know why? Because I was an untrustworthy son of a bitch. That's why I thought everyone was untrustworthy, because I was. The reason I thought everyone was a liar was because I was. You can't trust anyone. You know what they're like. And what I was really saying is, they're all like you, Roger. That's why you're not safe. Am I the only one in the room, really? So you are a projection of what I believe. The quality of my life is a projection of the qualities I believe are true. So when you come through with a lens of fear, everything's different threat levels. When you come through with some dignity and grace and some faith, a theology or philosophy that says, no, here's the difference. Situation arises, old Roger, this is a hassle, this is a problem, this is going to have to be dealt with. New Roger, opportunity. Which feels better? Let's go to war, or let's just take a breath, step back, ask a couple questions. What's going on here? I have no idea. Good. And what are you being asked to learn? Or what are you being asked to be? What are you being called to be? Not do, be in this situation. And allow that in. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to look like tolerance. Inside I don't feel very tolerant. But what's going to come out of my mouth is going to sound like tolerance. And I have to retrain myself. So there's a process of growing awareness that leads to deeper understanding. That's the basic instinct thing that I always rant about. Social security, sex instinct. And that leads to higher choice, better choice. So I go from lower self to higher self. I go from the darkness, the isolation of addiction, to the God thoughts. Whatever metaphor you want to use, it doesn't matter to me. Just find one that works for you, that makes sense. But you all know it. You all know it. When you face the light, you can feel it on your face. You can feel the warmth of it. It's the same with the spiritual direction. I sense the correctness of the direction I'm moving in inside. I don't sense it out here. And I rarely, just think about this incredible need to know what's going on. Why do you need to know what's going on? Because I need to keep myself safe. And what I found, we laugh about this a lot, I don't know shit. I rarely know what's going on when it's going on. If I'm lucky, I might figure it out with a year. Get about a year after it, and I'll look back and say, oh, that's what that was about. You know? Some things it was a 5 or 10 year loop before I really got far enough away from it, had enough healing, that I could look at it honestly enough and say, that's what was going on there. You know? That's why you've had so many marriages. Actually, divorces. That's why you've had so many of those. That's why there's no one close to you. That's why you don't have any friends. The mask, the persona. I had one for drinking and growing up, and I brought it in to my recovery. And it was a don't fuck with me mask. And it worked really well. The problem is you end up sitting in the back of the room alone. You sit there in a prison. What your ego is saying is, this is going to keep you safe. And we're back to don't let anyone see that you're hurt. Don't let anyone see that you don't know, that you're not enough and you're not safe. Don't let anyone know. The whole premise of this process is my allowing in and confessing to my fellows, I'm broken, I'm powerless, I can't manage my life. What is it? Self-reliance has failed me utterly, not partially. Not, self-reliance really deserted me for about 15 months there. But I'm back. Look out. Mm-hmm. I'm okay now. It says failed utterly. And they use other words to describe our disease, about crushed and destroyed. That doesn't sound like it's rehabable. What's the word I'm looking for? Rehabilitatable? Rehabable? Can't be fixed? You know what I mean? When you're talking about crushed, destroyed, utter failures, you're not talking about something that we can put a patch on, pump it up again, and get another 30,000 miles on it. You're talking about ideas and actions that have absolutely and completely failed. Most of us can come to that point and say, yeah, that's true. But when we get to the next step, would you like to consider some options that you can put in place to deal with those, which is the steps? All of a sudden we get very interesting. Well, some of these I could do, yeah. Well, I've had people say, I did those. Oh, when? During the meeting. I went down the list, and the guy's been to 6 meetings. He's going, what else you got? Well, we got a little book. We can go a little deeper if you like. What? I did those. I did them on the damn wall. Oh, good for you. Well, could you take me through? I love that. Why don't you just take me through? I could use a little help. Clearly. I could use a little help. The pain, the suffering, this is not about surrender. It's about not letting go. You've heard me talk about this before. Harry Tiebout's you can Google Tiebout's name, and one of the articles that comes up is Compliance versus Surrender. Read it. And he says surrender is an unconscious, a subconscious act. You can't surrender with your own volition. It comes to you. And so to use that subconscious model, So what I've got is I've got a whole set of ideas. I've practiced these ideas for so long that they harden into what I call what I believe. Okay? Now I've got these other ideas I'm allowing in. And it's like water on the rock. It's just wearing out these things, and it's uncomfortable. Things are shifting around and stuff. But eventually, those old ideas will be superseded by these new ideas. The pain is in the part of me that's been controlling me my whole life, this addiction. We'll call it alcoholism for the discussion, but the lower self, the addiction, which is demanding to be in control. What is its promise has always been, and it doesn't matter if you're alcoholic or non-alcoholic, but the promise of that lower self. So for me, it was management through chemicals. For the non-alcoholic, it's managing them through my skill set, right? If I can just get her to do this, then she won't drink so much. I mean, when you sit with Al-Anon spouses, especially the women, I mean, we drive him absolutely, completely mad. I thought if I was better in bed, he would have stayed. I thought he kept bitched about my cooking. So I learned to cook different things. I went to cooking school. I did everything. He bitched about the house being dirty. I cleaned the house. I was up, toothbrushes in the corner, just turning myself inside out for something that was totally impossible. Because as soon as the kitchen was clean enough, there was something else wrong. You moved the cheese. Yeah, of course I did. That's how I keep you busy. If I keep you busy enough, and you're dying from the idea that you somehow can control what I'm doing, and then you'll be happy. So if one of those brief moments happens when you get what you want, I'm not drinking, and I get what I don't want, I'm not drinking, it's not happy. It's not fun. And we both got what we said we wanted, and everyone's miserable. That's a lie. But this thing has been sitting on the throne of my being for decades. And it's not going to say, oh, well, he wants to get sober. Oh, he's moving. He's seeking a relationship with the power greater himself. Let us step down. Oh, please. We're tired of driving the bus. Yes, have God do it. We'll just take a back seat over here with our resentment and our fear and our anger and our devious behaviors and our mind reading and control and we'll just wait and see how God does. No, not at all. There's a war going on. There's a big fight going on, but the God thing doesn't fight. It just biz. I made up a word, biz. That's bees and is. Bees. It just bees. You know what I'm saying? It just bees. It bee and it is. It bees. You see? It's not an aggressive fight. Here's the truth, and you know what it feels like when you hear it and when you're in front of it and when you know it. It's a feel. It's not a bunch of words and symbols. It's a feel. I know when I feel that, and I know when I don't. And you can use that just internal guidance system, my little compass. I'm just going for the feel. And I've got this idea. I'm going to drop half my meetings. Sounds like a great idea to me. I haven't run it by anyone else, but it'll give me more time at the gym. And that's taking care of the temple. God would like that, right? So I got this all figured out. And I go do it. And God, my abs are looking great, but I'm getting a little squirrely in the house I'm living in. Things are getting a little weird. Early warning system. It doesn't mean don't ever go to the gym. It means you got to put it in some kind of perspective, in some kind of proportion. And the proportion is off. How do I know? I'm diseased. I'm uncomfortable. Pay attention. It's too subtle for me to pay attention because I'm always screaming and pushing everything out this way. It's very subtle. But we all have it and we all know it. I know when this feels good. I know when something feels good, and I know when it doesn't feel good. If you want to use right and wrong, you can use right and wrong. If you want to move towards God, move towards the drink, you can do that. But we all know. We all know. We don't all listen. And sometimes you got to tune it up. I mean, you got to learn to listen. How does that compass appear to me? For some people, they go, I hear a voice. Don't say that too many places. Don't put a freaking net over you. I heard this voice. Oh, really? Yeah. The voice said I should take off with your wife. No. The boy said, buy a new motorcycle. No. But the question is what is it for me? For me, it's physical. It's muscular. When I do something, or I'm thinking about doing something that's not right for me, I feel it. I feel it first in my stomach muscles. I feel it in my shoulder, my neck muscles. I get sweaty if I let it go on. It's weird. And I used to blow by all that. I thought it was excitement. I'm getting excited, I'm getting stuff. No, it was God. And that voice is not, Jesus Christ, no pun intended. You've done this for 25 years, 13 days, and 7 hours. Are you really going to do this again? It doesn't talk to me. It just goes, if you must. But I'm just telling you. It's quiet, gentle, because God does not demand perfection from me, and God does not demand anything from me. It says, if you wish, I'll walk with you. If you wish, you must invite me in. You must allow me. You must admit me. And the problem is, because of our free will, we can omit at will as well. How many times have you heard people, no one in this room, I gave God my will, but I took it back by noon. Oh, really? That's a hell of a commitment. Huh. You know, I'm in. I don't think so. I think once you do that admittance deal, the first 2 steps, once you do that in significant depth, I don't think you're ever the same again. I don't think you know it when it happens. I think you always know it in retrospect. And I'm giving you a retrospective that's, 35 years long now. It didn't feel like that at 5 years or 10 years. It started feeling that at 25 years, 20 years, 25 years. It was like, whoa, I'm starting to feel this differently. Because as you go through this, your concepts are going to keep evolving. If you do. And if you got the same arrangement you had in 1978 that you have today, if it's working, fine. My sense and my experience of that is it needs to evolve. I need to grow. In my relationship with the Creator. I need to grow. I don't have to do it at light speed. I don't have to do it as fast as Pete. I don't have to do it as slow as Mike. I don't have to do it like Mary. I just have to grow. I have to be in the game. Because at the end of it all, I want to claim progress. I am progressing. I am not done. I don't plan on ever being done, and that's fine with me. No graduation, I'm good with that, right? But I tell you, I'm in the game. And everything in that text says if you're in the game, this power will give you what you need to address all the circumstances and situations that you come up against. Honesty, thoroughness. Honesty, thoroughness. I'm going to take what I've learned and what I've become aware of, and I hand it off to God. We do that in 6 and 7. We do it 10 and 11. I hand it off to God, and it's not my business. Because all those negative, all those things we call defects of character, we're all powerless over them anyway. You're powerless over your fear. So why would you identify it in an inventory process and then wrestle with it? It doesn't say wrestle with it. It says identify it. And then it says ask God to remove it. Then it says talk to someone. Then it says make any amends if necessary. Then it says now resolutely turn your thinking to someone you can help. That's what it says. So that doesn't sound like me working on my fear. I identify it, I turn away, and I get into the solution. And if I have to do that 100 times today, I do it 100 times. Because that means it only came 99. And the 100th was the breakthrough. So I allow in. I allow in the new ideas. I allow in new perspectives. I now allow in new principles. Awareness, understanding, choice. Awareness, understanding, choice. And I practice. Daily reprieve, daily practice. Seems like a fair deal. Daily reprieve, daily practice. What about those days I was lazy? Now we're talking about grace and mercy. If I start thinking that's because I'm something I'm not, I'll slip into complacency and it will all fall away. It will all fall away. How soon it falls away, I don't know, but I've seen it, and it always falls away. What's the way? What's the it? The little modicum of peace and serenity I had, the little bit of understanding relationship I had with God, the little bit of practice I had, prayer, meditation, read some silly books, the meetings, working with new guys. I don't work with new guys anymore. They're a pain in the ass. God, they're all nuts. I can't waste my time. We're all here because someone wasted their time. We're all here because someone wasted their time. It's never a waste. What did Lois say to Bill? Bill was whining. No one's getting sober. Bill was whining. Wasn't saving the world. Feeling down. Probably feeling a little inept and impotent. Couldn't get anyone sober. And that was the scene where Lois threw the shoe at him. She was tired of him. She threw a shoe across the room at him to get his attention. Just an awareness for raising exercise. Get sober! She said, but you're staying sober. I can assure you that a lot of the guys I've 12-stepped are dead. But I'm not. You learn from doing. What are the doctors? We had a doctor. I don't want to out any doctors here. The doctors have an expression. See one, do one, teach one. When they're going to medical school, they're learning a surgical procedure. See one, you observe. Now do it. Now teach it. And we're kind of that way with the steps. See it, do it, teach it. See if you can, we call it pass it on. Can you pass it on? Now, here's another question. What are you passing on? What are you passing on? Whew. And when you come to realize that...
Backup plan.
Yeah. Plan A, B, and C, yeah. When you come to realize, and you will, when a man or woman comes to you and says, I need some help, and you enter into that transaction, that's about the most holy thing I do. I mean, that man is saying, I'm going to trust you with my frickin' life. Well, I'll tell you what, I am not going to bring bullshit to that discussion. I am not going to lie to you. I am not going to make shit up. And so it's going to make me want to be more helpful. Which is why I became more of a student, why I started reading and studying, because I was weak in some of these areas. And I didn't want to pass my weakness on. Because I knew we were coming up on that 6 and 7, you're going to ask me about prayer. And I better come up with something. And what I'm coming up with is the truth of my experience, not this cool thing I read from Thich Nhat Hanh. Tattoo that on your ass, do it backwards so you can see it in the mirror when you're throwing up in the toilet. No. It's you can remember them anyway. But you know what I'm saying? I think you do. So this idea, admit versus surrender. Because if I think I surrender, I'm going to feel gypped, right? But if I ask this question, what have I not allowed in? That's a different question. Why am I in the back of the room, pissed off watching these other yo-yos become AA rock stars, and they seem to be having a great time? And we're sitting in the same room. We're listening to the same bore-ass speakers. We're listening to these same old farts coming here. You know, what's the difference? And I mean, this is how impenetrable alcoholism is to the person who has it. It just never occurred to me. They're doing something you're not doing. You know how it occurred to me? I'm mumbling on the coffee break at one of these meetings. This program sucks. I want you to know it sucks. And this guy, old man, he said it was a loving AA embrace. I say it was a headlock. And this arm just came on. He said, "What, kid?" Yes. And he just said, "Why don't you try our program?" And he released me, and I got out to the truck. I'm driving around. That son of a bitch offended me. Because he was telling me the truth. But he was telling it the way I needed to get it. Everyone doesn't need it, the 2x4 thing. I was a 2x4 guy for a long time. You just got to whack me and say, look it, let's start here. You don't know shit. Now we can begin. If you can ascend to that idea. Okay? He was right. My program sucked. And I hadn't really considered it that way. You remember this conversation with your sponsor? You come in, your onions are all in a bunch, you go, and you throw it all up, and he goes, rah, 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 rah. And what occurs, it usually because, well, rather than say, I was totally wrong and I don't know shit, you go, well, never thought of it that way. No, you didn't. Because you're screwed up. You can't think of it that way because you're all screwed up in this other way of thinking. So we have a different way of thinking. You have to allow this in. You have to make some conversation with yourself and with other people and with God, and the ideas will work on you. Let's knock this off. Okay? Here's a prayer of protection for you, for us. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Wherever we are, God is. No exceptions. So next month, backup plan. Let's eat, and then we'll break for 10 minutes, 8:30, and we'll come back. And if you want to have a Q&A, we will.